it looks different at Brazos Fellowship, maybe. But here's what we've learned, Danny, and I think this has some transferable power to any organization. If you want to reach people that no one else is reaching, you got to be willing to do things that no one else is doing.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, Will Lewis, to the On the Verge podcast, where we talk business, life, fitness, whatever.
Yes.
Kind of keeps you on the verge. And if you heard the first podcast, you know what On the Verge is about. It's that just always seeking a little bit more, just trying to grow every single day and continue to be on a growth journey. And so Will Lewis is the pastor of Brazos Fellowship Church. I've known Will for, I was just talking, a little over 20 years.
Yes.
And you're a husband to Leslie. You've got 3 beautiful girls. You now have 1 grandbaby and 1 on the way.
That's right.
You're the head pastor of Brazos Fellowship Church, a church that I just happened to check with a good friend of mine, Sean Parrish, this morning. I said, hey, what was the maximum attendance in 2024? And Sean told me it was 2,885 people was the highest attendance for the church. That's incredible.
I'm not sure I knew that. That's great.
I'll give you some more stats for you, Will, because I thought maybe you would know. Weekly attendance at Brazos Fellowship, 1,640 on average are coming to the church every single week. I know that we just celebrated 20 years, right?
That's right.
I saw the video. I wasn't there, but you sent it to me, so that was really special to see. Brody was just a year old, and that was cool to see the video, dragging him into the school
on the cooler. Yeah.
You shared that there's been 7,315 salvations and 1,429 baptisms.
Yeah.
Man, what a blessing
Such an honor to be a part of that. Complete miracle of God. As you know, when we started a little over 20 years ago, it was literally a small group in our living room. You and Julianne were there and had no idea. There was a dream, a vision I feel like God gave us, but did not know where it was going to go. And I don't feel like we're done yet. Kind of like you and Jonathan were saying, we're still on the verge of whatever God's going to do next. But yeah, such an honor, such a privilege to be a part of this, and an honor to be here with you today, for sure.
Well, thank you for joining us. I can't wait to get into your story. I think that, On the Verge is just about ordinary people that get extraordinary results.
Yeah.
And you're one of those guys, so we're excited to have you here. And I think that a lot of people love to hear about the guests, not only their journey, but just their day-to-day. So I want to start with, you're pretty jacked, Will.
I don't know about that.
And I know you're maybe a little senior to me, but not much. And I'll turn 51 this year. So
yes, I'm 55.
55 to stay in such great shape. Tell the audience about your morning routine. How do you start your day?
Most days, I'm going to probably get up about 6:37, and I don't really eat. I know this is probably going to break a lot of nutritional rules, but I don't really eat a lot of breakfast. I'll have as clean as I can find, usually a bar or two, and have some coffee, some good. I feel like it's really spiritual to start your day with some really good coffee.
It's got to be.
But I usually kind of start off with not a whole lot, and then usually lunch is going to be pretty lean. I have a certain bowl I like to build at Chipotle. I know you and I have met there many times.
Absolutely.
And or sometimes if I got to be a quick lunch, which usually once or twice a week, I really only want to take about 10 or 15 minutes. I'll drive through Smoothie King. Little plug for Smoothie King. Yeah. I know Thomas, the owner, goes to Brazos. So anyway, I'll go through there and grab me a Gladiator with banana and peanut butter. And I know I'm going to get about 45, 50 grams of protein and kind of keeps me going.
Yeah.
Then I usually eat a pretty big dinner, which is probably the opposite of what everybody tells you to do, but it works pretty well.
And I work out late in the day. Breakfast. Oh, you work? Okay.
Yeah, I work out at 4:00. So I usually try to get a lot done, and then I know I need about 7 minutes to get to the gym. So
Yeah.
I'll leave right before. Sometimes they give me a hard time at the CrossFit class I go to because I'm like, I'm either late or right on time. But anyway, I do a workout 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday. It's usually my routine. And then as you know, I love to mountain bike. I usually try to go on the weekends. And that's pretty much, as far as fitness and stuff like that goes, that's kind of my weekly routine. But,
so you're moving every day, though.
Yes.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
And I used to work out with you at CrossFit, and I went to something else. It was a little hard on my joints, but the fact that you're still there working out at BoomFit with Charlie, and that was, again, that was so many years ago.
Yeah.
You've been really disciplined with that routine.
I just crossed over my 1 decade with BoomFit.
1 decade. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and, I think with you being a pastor, and I know this is you're in a nonprofit world, but I think a lot of the same principles apply. And it seems that the most successful people that we meet with, they're very disciplined with things. So to say that you've been going to CrossFit for 10 years, 4 days a week, and obviously it shows you're in great shape, you're in good health.
Thank you.
But also, I know that, you're on stage every weekend. Like, you got to be on every weekend. Let's talk about as far as your daily routine, because you got to prepare. Tell us, how do you prepare to just be on like that?
Well, I guess maybe let me start with something I left out of the routine that you just asked about. Is I have a time that I just get quiet with God every day.
Yeah,
it's my first appointment, if you will, when I get to the office. And if I'm not working that day, I'll do it at home. But just having that time for prayer and time in God's Word and just centering my heart on Him and what He wants to do in my life today, what He wants to do at Brazos Fellowship, my role as a husband, a dad, a pastor, a leader, a manager, a counselor, lots of different hats that I wear. Yeah. Just really, that's all going to come from Him. I have to recognize right up front, there is nothing in Will Lewis that's going to be able to fill those blanks with anything satisfactory.
Sure.
And so starting my day there, and I usually will try to carve out an hour and a half. I know not everybody can do that, but I have been blessed over the last 20 years to arrange my life in such a way that I can, that may feel like a luxury that a lot of people don't have, but I have made it a priority. So I'm like, before I plan anything else, I'm going to do that. And so that really helps me to kind of like, okay, I'm not starting the day in this frenetic, worked up, I got to get all this stuff done. I got to get through all my emails. Before I even look at an email, I'm going to spend that time with God. And boy, that just gets me in a whole different headspace, a much different energy level for the day, and peaceful and focused. And so before I even write the message for the weekend, I feel like I got to get Will Lewis right before God and confess anything I need to confess and get that right. So anyway, it really helps me get right. And then I try to start early in the week so that I'm having plenty of time to marinate on, think about, process. What am I going to tell them? This isn't just content to disperse.
Yeah.
This is hopefully, at the end of the day, by God's intervention through His Holy Spirit, going to be a transformation of a life at the other end of this.
Yeah.
And by God's grace, as you said, we've had almost 7,400 people that have said,
yeah, my
eternity has been shifted because of what God's doing through this ministry. So that is 100% God's work. But I feel like just preparing a little bit every day. I try not to do all of it in one day, but sometimes life happens and you have to do more than. Ideally, I'd like to do half a day on Monday, most of the day Tuesday, and then Wednesday and Thursday are going to be usually working for future projects, meeting with staff, lunches, church folks that I want to meet with, et cetera, stuff like that. But the first half of the week is usually just dedicated to I got to get Sunday squared away. And so, because knowing that 30 minutes that I'm standing up there in front of everybody is the most important, most critical, I got the most eyeballs. We're broadcasting that on the internet. It used to be on KBTX. We're no longer doing that. But anyway, it was like, that's the greatest impact of anything I'm going to do for the whole week. So I need to prepare for that and really protect it. So I would spend a lot of time on it. And probably somewhere around half of my week would go to that. And then again, on Saturday, I'd probably spend another 3.5, 4 hours. I still do that. Just going over it, making sure I'm clear. I want to read through it. I want to say it out loud. I want to kind of like, not too rehearsed. I want it to be natural and from my heart. But yeah, it does take some work. It's like,
no doubt. I know anytime I've had to give a speech or something at a conference, it always takes me about 10 times longer than I expected. And so I'm sure with you having to do this every week, you know what it takes. So you're having to dedicate this time every single week. But, I can't quite imagine having to be on stage every week. Is that something that, that you were drawn to or was it? Tell us.
No. Wow. Glad you asked. I ran from it.
Oh, really?
Most of my young life, I remember even being in high school, having a drama teacher saying, I really want you to go out for this part. I don't even know why she saw something in me I didn't see in me. I went out for it, got it, and I declined it, Danny. It was such a lame thing to do. I'd already gotten it and everything, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't be in front of people. I can't talk like that. So it was 100% I don't know if you want to call it social anxiety. We didn't call it that back then in the 80s. Yeah. It was just, you're freaking out, So I did not enjoy being in front of people at all. Being a public speaker was not something I was like, no, maybe one-on-one, with people. But so it was 100% something that I felt God call me to. And then whenever I finally was like, okay, God, I'll try it. I'll do it. And then I saw him bless it. I had people come up and say, this is a gift God's given you. You need to use it and not squander it. And I'm like, okay, I guess I better start using this. But what's funny, even if something is a gift, meaning you naturally have a talent towards it, it still takes a lot of work.
Sure.
To sharpen that blade and make sure you're giving your excellence unto the Lord, in my line of work. And so I would still say, even if somebody's watching this and they're saying, oh yeah, I can kill it at sales, or I can kill it at whatever, I just naturally show up and I can dunk on everybody, which that's great, but make sure you're not mailing it in.
No.
Like you've been given that gift for a reason, and bring glory to God by bringing excellence to it, Yeah. And so, and I'm certainly not saying that I'm the greatest public communicator, but I do try very hard every week to give the best that I have to that every time I get an opportunity. So, yeah, it did. So I'm glad you asked, because that's a big part of that story. Is it was not something I wanted. I felt like God called me to it, and as I said yes, I've been so blown away at the results, but that is 100% a miracle. Really. I have to give God all the credit for that, for sure.
You jumped in and you were willing to do it every single week. That's a good transition into the origin story of the church, because as we were talking when you first came in, my first memory of you was at the Marriott Hotel, which Julianne was managing.
Yes.
The Marriott. Tell us about the origin story. What do you remember about that?
So I was pastoring a little church that I had started from scratch. I mean, it was a church plant down in Mission, Texas. So literally we lived about 3.5 miles from the border of Mexico. We were as far south as you can be and still be in Texas. We tell people. So we were down there, had probably about 2 to 2.5 years into a church, and it was going well. I remember we had just had an Easter service where we had over 300. That was the most we'd ever had. And this little fledgling church was starting to really get going. And I get a call from Ben Betcher, and he was an architect on a project at a church where a good friend of mine, Bill Cornelius, who's down in the Corpus Christi area. And Bill told Ben about me. And because Ben was like, we want to start a church like this. And we'd love to, or at least we're praying about God starting a church like this in the, Bryan College Station area. He said, well, you need to call my friend Will Lewis, which I didn't know off the top, it was completely unbeknownst to me that was happening. Yeah. He calls me and he just said, hey, we're fired up. Bill said that you're the guy that we need to call, and would you be open to pray about this? And so we started praying about it, and we thought, well, let's go visit. And it was probably somewhere around April of 2004.
Yeah.
Literally about 21 years ago when we first came. For the first time we'd ever come to College Station, ever. And met you guys, you and Julianne, and had dinner, or I think lunch or dinner anyway, at the Courtyard Marriott, did a little tour of the town and everything, and started praying about that.
Yeah, I think we had dinner at Christopher's, and that was like the first time we had gone to dinner because Brody was like just born.
Yes, I remember Brody was in a little stroller.
Yeah, and he's cried the whole time, I think.
He was tiny.
Yeah, he was. He was like 2 months old.
Isn't he about to turn 21 or?
He just turned 21.
Just turned 21. Yeah. So that would make sense that he was little tiny, like just born.
Yeah.
Which is kudos to you guys for going in public with a newborn. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
That was wild. Yeah. So anyway, Christopher's was delicious, and it was wonderful meeting you guys. And we kind of went back to South Texas, did not feel like it was the time. Like we were like, we loved everybody we met, but we were just like, this started praying about, there's just a lot that was not in place there. We couldn't just walk away and let the whole thing drop. So continued to pray about it kind of into the summertime. And it wasn't till about August 1, right around there, that it felt like, okay, God had just brought the right people, everything together. And we were like, okay, I think he's given us the green light to come. Yeah. And I remember going into that fall of 2005, we scheduled, I want to say, 2 what we called vision dinners, maybe. It might have been 3, where we were like, mainly you guys in the Betchers, if you know of anybody that might be interested in a new church, would you just invite them to this dinner? And I think we had Buppies cater the thing. And one of them was at your house, and one of them was at Ben and Cindy's, or maybe 2 at their house. I can't remember exactly. I need to go back and look. But I remember, once again, Brody being in the little bassinet or stroller or something, and having all these friends of you and Julianne and the Betchers, meeting them, kind of sharing the vision for the church. Yeah. And then we got moved here right around Thanksgiving of 2005, and then started having meetings in our home, kind of launch team meetings, I think we called them, getting ready for the launch of the church. And we only met in those for 2.5. So it was from Thanksgiving through Christmas. And of course, people are gone during Thanksgiving and Christmas, but through December and into January. And then it was February 13th was our first public service.
Wow. What date? February
13th. Okay. So we'd only been just meeting as this fledgling little group for about 3 months.
Yeah.
But I knew, based on my past church leadership experience, I needed to start having church. I knew I couldn't keep it in a small group very long. We weren't going to be able to keep any kind of momentum. That we needed to have church. So I knew. So we did you may remember this, kind of got some equipment together to be able to pull off a first service. We did a postcard, kind of direct mail piece to South College Station right around, and we set up in the cafetorium in the middle school on Rock Prairie Road, still there.
Yeah.
Still, we could go there right now. It's still there. And had our first service in there. And there was about 220 people showed up at the first service.
Yeah, big group.
Big miracle, for sure. Because there was about 12 or 15 of us that were meeting at my house. So that card did a great job.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still have that kind of results with direct mail pieces.
Direct mail
anymore.
works, or used to work.
Used to work, yeah. I don't know. And then, so we kind of got started through February, and it kind of grew. And of course, college town in summer, everything kind of went, down. And
well, I remember, at the time we hadn't lived here long. We'd just moved, and Jonathan and I had started our practice up in Grapevine, Texas, and so Jonathan and Christy were there.
Okay.
And then we all attended Fellowship Church in Grapevine, and Julianne got transferred with Marriott. And of course, Jonathan and I, we really weren't making enough money to support ourselves just then, and so Julianne and Christy were doing a lot of the bill paying at the time. And so when she got transferred, we came here.
Okay.
And the Starks stayed there for a little bit, but I know the church was a big reason why they wanted to come here as well. So they ended up moving in, I think, and we're here before that first big service happened. And I just remember, all the effort that was going into, loading up a trailer with all the gear and, trailering stuff into the church and then out, and then one thing leads to another. And, I'd love you to tell people about how you went from that public facility that was just borrowed from the city to the first church, and how it's just a really cool story how you came about moving into the current facility.
Yeah, so we knew we had I couldn't remember exactly, maybe a couple of years, maybe they'd give you up to about 30 months or so, but it wasn't super long that you could rent out, public school facilities in College Station. And so, which that makes sense. They don't want you to be permanent, act like it's your permanent facility. And it gets complicated for the school and the staff, and when they're trying to put on productions and stuff like that, and you're setting up and tearing down. So we knew we were on a pretty tight timeline. So we started praying, and like I asked, at that time we didn't have much of a staff. There was only about 2 or 3 of us, and then we had some volunteer staff, kind of like you and Julianne and Jonathan and Christy and some others that were willing to help, and just asking everybody, hey, please pray that God would open a door somewhere. Mm-hmm. And I remember back at that time talking to Sean Parrish, and I think his wife Kim she'd grown up here, and she remembered that was an old movie theater, and it was a bar called Times Square, and had been a lot of different things through the years, but it was a bar currently back at that time, and this was probably like early 2006, and so anyway, I just said, hey, this is in the right part of town. This would be great if this would work out. It has a big parking lot. Most movie theaters, like, it's hard, especially with like a church facility, to ever get enough parking for the seating inside. So this was one of the rare places where that was possible. And so I asked everybody, hey, let's just start praying about it. We'll just kind of treat it like Jericho. If you're driving through there, just drive around the property. Just pray that whatever walls need to come down will come down. Yeah. God will do a miracle. And so we've been doing that for not long, like only a week or two. And I was meeting a friend at that Gold's Gym right across the street. So I thought, okay, I'm asking everybody else to do it. I'm going to do it too. I drove through there, and I'm like, there's like flatbed trailers backed up to the front door. What's going on here? Like, they were not, from all that we had found out about, they were not getting ready to move. They were about to buy, the bar was going to buy the building, and et cetera. And so we just started praying, and like I went through there, I'm like, wow, they're like backing out stuff. So I gave a call to James Murr, who knew, he had found where the owners were. And I said, hey, are they moving out? What's going on? He called the owner. And about an hour later, after I finished working out, I pulled over there, and the College Station PD were shutting down that little moving party. Because the owner said, I'm so glad you told us, because that's our stuff. That's our pool tables, our TVs. They're taking off with our stuff. So God gave us favor with this owner. And he said, hey, if you guys are interested, I'm going to be there tomorrow at the building. Would you come and meet with me? And we were like, yes, we will come meet with you. And we told him, hey, we just started. We don't have any money. We can't get a loan. Nobody give a loan to an organization that's only been around about 18 months, had only 18 months worth of financials. Like, it's laughable to get a loan back then. And so, or probably still today. And anyway, he said, well, put me an offer together. Maybe I'll own or finance it for you. We're like, I don't even know if I knew if that was a thing back then. I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. You could do that. Okay. Yeah. So we did. We put together an offer and asked for a lot and offered very little.
Yeah.
And he said yes.
Wow.
And it was absolutely, Danny, one of the biggest, to date, one of the biggest miracles to get us out of rented facilities into a big facility that we couldn't have dreamt that we could have got our foot in that door. And then there was a lot of work ahead of us.
Sure. You're going to turn a bar into a church. I think that's a little bit of work to do.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
It reeked. It was not a pretty facility in any stretch of the imagination. So it's like, yes, I think about it like that moment where Jesus is calling Peter out of the boat. So it's like, yeah, you get to walk on water. You know what? But you got to get out of that boat.
Yeah.
Like, getting out of the boat is the scariest thing you've ever done in your life.
Sure.
So you're like, I don't know how to do that. I have no idea. God, you're going to have to show up. You're going to have to do a miracle because I've never been trained for this. Seminary doesn't train you. I tell you that for right now, for sure. Like, he's going to force you into a place where you're going to have to trust him, and it's going to be one step after another after another. It's one day. It's that daily bread. Lord, give me that daily bread. Yeah. And it just builds your faith. Like, if you didn't have it that way, if it was any other way, you wouldn't get to see God show up and do miracles, and you wouldn't get to see. We have so many cool stories that came out of all that. But it took a while to get the building built out. Sure. And then we had to add on to it later and all that.
I like your analogy there of you got to get out of the boat. I think that, a lot of entrepreneurs, they all do that. I mean, everybody's just at some point had to take some kind of risk to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, this is something I want to ask you because I see a lot of people say, well, I'm going to pray about that and I'm going to wait for God to tell me to do something, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times they don't do anything because they're waiting for something.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
Because
it's a great
because you got to step out of the boat. And I'm a man of faith, but I'm not often as close to God as I should be. So I may not even ask, right? I just jumped out of the boat.
Yeah.
And he saves me, somehow. And so, let's talk about that because some people will never get out of the boat. Yeah. Other people's jump before even thinking about. So, you've had to jump out of the boat a couple of times.
Yes.
More than a couple even to get from 0 to 2,885 people to attend church. So, tell me what are your thoughts on that?
I think we all have different bents, personality profile types, etc. Some people, this is much easier, more action oriented. Probably guys like you and I that are a little more A type. I don't know if that's even the right verbiage, but anyway. But then there's other people that are a little more cautious, and that's good too. Mm-hmm. I'm married to a very cautious woman, and I'm so thankful because there's been times she's pulled the reins saying, wait, we need to think about this. Let's pray about this for a little bit long. Let's make sure we have a plan before we drive the car off the cliff and go, God save us, because yes, there are times you got to do that. There's definitely times you got to take the leap, and for sure. And he, man, by God's grace, he has caught us. But I know people that have said, I thought he was telling me to jump, and obviously it didn't happen like I thought it was going to, and it was hard. But you know what? God will teach you even through that.
Sure.
And so I think I don't want to sit here and act like every time I've jumped, everything was golden and it all turned out rosy and beautiful. There were times where it was very difficult and it was challenging, and I think I probably jumped too soon, or I misheard, or so I do want to slow down. I think at 55, I'm a little bit more like, I hope that I'm using more wisdom now.
Sure. Yeah.
That I know you probably heard me talk about this before, and I've learned it from others, that based on your past experiences, your current circumstances, and your future hopes and dreams, where God's taking me, what is the wise thing to do right now? Yeah. And so I've really tried to live by that to what is the wise thing? God, show me the wise thing. I was just reading recently, it's I think in 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 10, where Solomon, one of the greatest things he ever prayed for was wisdom. God, help me to govern these people in a way that would honor you. I wanted, he was given this incredible leadership opportunity to lead all of Israel.
Yeah.
And right on the heels of his dad, King David, and he's like, there's a lot of ways I could screw this up. God, I need your help. I need you to show me what the wise thing to do is. And I have seen God over and over. He loves to answer that prayer. Yeah. And so before I do a big jump like that, I have learned to slow down, ask that prayer, ask that question of God, what is the wise thing to do? And then just really try to listen. I do think that there are times in his grace and his mercy that he has saved me, and maybe you've got some of those stories too, in spite of ourselves.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was not using good wisdom, but he saved me from me, So I'm not sure if that was a satisfactory answer, but I think...
No, it is. I just think that it's good to take a step. You have to move. You got to keep moving, and to find success, you can't sit still.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
I think there is this whole paralysis by analysis, and sometimes you just got to go with call it the Holy Spirit, call it God telling you, call it your gut, whatever it is for people. It's just, man, take a step.
He's going to show you, based on what he's shown you in the past. The past tends to be some pretty reliable evidence for how things are going to play out in the future.
Yeah.
And you have to, there's some nuances to that. So be careful not just taking what I'm saying for, it's always going to work out just like it's always worked. Not always, but.
Usually the past is a good example of how not to do it.
Well, that's true. Learn what not to do and then don't do that. Don't repeat that. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. And so, but I am like you, where if I haven't taken a big jump in a while, I get a little antsy and a little itchy.
Oh, sure.
I love to build stuff. I know you do too.
Yeah.
If I'm not building, if I'm not breaking ground, messing something up, making a mess somewhere, I'm like, when's the next time I can build something?
Sure.
Right now, Leslie and I are getting ready to re-landscape the backyard, because I'm just like, I want to work on something.
Got to do something.
I got to do something.
Yeah.
I want to make over something.
Well,
I want to anyway.
And that's a good point too, because I'm the same. Jonathan's the same. We're constantly, if everything's going well, we're usually trying to break something, and I don't know why. Why do you have to have chaos in your life? But it's just this process of wanting to make things better. It goes with On the Verge. It's like, we're here now. What's the next step? It's like there's never a finish line. It's just a journey. And when you're like that, you need people around you to kind of pull back, like you're saying. Leslie's pulling back the reins, but you've also got a great team. So I want to talk about that, because to get to the size that you are, there's just no way that you could do that all on your own. And I've seen your team. I've seen them perform. You've got an awesome team. Tell us how you went about like putting that team together, and and what were their various strengths, and how they offset you, and things like that.
I would say, first of all, it is a dream team. I've worked at a lot of church staffs, and even at our church with many different staff, but the formula of people, we have such a beautiful mix of amazing, catalytic, go-getter kind of people that just take the initiative, just amazing people that are smart, have incredible hearts. I think trying to create a good culture is so important. And I know lots have been written about this. A lot of books have been published about this idea. One of the ones that I think was really helpful, instrumental to me early on, written by Daniel Pink called Drive.
I love that book.
And that whole idea.
Autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Yes.
Right?
Autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Yeah.
Yes. If you can provide those things, and I love how he was one of the first people I've ever heard, and obviously in church world, this is not really even as big of a thing as in for-profit world, but money beyond a certain point doesn't motivate people. Like, it's nice.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to turn it down. Like, if you want to pay people more, that's great. They'll take it.
Yeah.
But what actually motivates people is the ability to have some say over how they get their work done. Like you said, autonomy, some say over when, how, where they can shape, mold. What is their work week going to look like? If they're getting their job done and they're killing it and they're doing it in half the time as the last guy that did their job, who cares, right? Autonomy, mastery. Are you giving them opportunities to get better and better and better and become one of the best at what they do? Sure. Conferences, speakers, books, resources, online resources, whatever. Like, we want to be able to provide money, which many times is the way that you access that. But even being able to get on the phone with people, like encouraging them to look for mentors, look for people that are further down the road that you can learn from. And then purpose, and I want to believe it. And they've told me this, so I feel like this is valid. Our staff, like, hey, we feel like so blessed that we get to come to work and do something that is infused, not just with purpose, but divine, eternal purpose. Like, what we're doing will last forever and ever. After this all the stuff of this world is long gone, it's going to last forever. And I think you can have that in any line of work. That if you're doing it unto the Lord and you're doing it in a way that blesses people, it helps better their lives, and you're doing it as an offering unto God, and you're doing it as a way to treat them as image bearers of Almighty God, that they are made in God's image, they have inherent, intrinsic value, regardless of what they produce, regardless of what they drive, where they live, all of that stuff doesn't matter. They all matter. And that's one thing that, just knowing you and Jonathan, y'all have always treated your clients like that. And I love that. I love that you guys have always seen people for valuable image bearers and not as just dollar signs.
Sure. Well,
what can we make?
Thank you for that.
So,
we love telling their story. I mean, we think everybody has a unique story. And, And I think that's a big part of our success as a firm is that every single client, we want to find their unique story and tell it. And so it just, we're in the business of, recovering money for people. And so it can be about the money, but ultimately what brings value is when people understand what somebody's really been through. Mm-hmm. And, our purpose may be, we keep people from getting screwed by big insurance. So, and we had to use that word because there was no other way to explain how insurance companies treat people.
Yeah.
And
it communicates. Everybody knows what you're talking about.
You know exactly what we do. But, that's our purpose. And I know that our team, I love purpose so much because I know our team, every single one, we have 158 team members at the firm now.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I know every single one of them is proud to get up and say, hey, I'm going to help somebody today. I'm going to keep them from getting screwed by big insurance. And everybody believes that big insurance is trying to take advantage of people.
Yeah.
And so we get to stand up for those people. And that is a purpose that they can come and be proud to come fight for every single day. So tell us the church's purpose.
Yes.
Because you talk about culture. Culture's huge. Another foundational aspect is purpose or vision. So tell us about the church's vision.
Yes.
And purpose.
So our mission statement, why we exist to guide people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. Yeah. All kinds of people, whether they come in saying, hey, I've been a Christian for decades and I'm looking for a place to grow in my faith. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. We want to help you to take that next step, whatever that step looks like for you. It's going to look different for different people, but there's going to be some commonality. Or the guy or girl that comes in and says, I have no faith. I have been very skeptical of faith. I have lots of questions about the Bible and about God, and especially when I look at against the backdrop of this world and all the crazy stuff I see going on. And we need to help them process through that. And sometimes it may be a 2 or 3 year journey just to get them to a place of saying, okay, I believe.
Yeah.
But we see that as a privilege. And I think it's part of the reason why people have trusted us to say, I'm going to keep coming, even though I'm not sure I'm 100% on board with all of the things you're saying about Jesus.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep coming. I'm going to keep trusting. I'm going to keep trying and taking. And for some people, just taking that next step to come back is huge. And we forget, like, it's enormous and it's very uncomfortable and it's awkward and it's weird to show up to a place that you don't know anybody and you don't know the rules and you don't know where the bathrooms are and you don't know where so we try to think about everything from wayfinding signs to find your way through the campus and not be confused and frustrated and wondering. And if you have to park, sometimes they have to park far away over at Park Place Plaza over by the, Planet Fitness or something. We have golf carts that, like, hey, we'll help you over to Brazos Fellowship. We'll give you a ride over and we'll make it easy for you, whatever. So just thinking about all those things, the verbiage that we use in the service. We try to use verbiage that isn't Christianese, sometimes, using big theological terms. Or if we're going to use one, we're going to take a minute to explain and define what we're saying, what we mean by those things. So it's just a extra step of compassion, I would say, to say, this is how it looks different at Brazos Fellowship, maybe. But here's what we've learned, Danny, and I think this has some transferable power to any organization. If you want to reach people that no one else is reaching, you got to be willing to do things that no one else is doing.
Absolutely.
And and that's where we have come to that place of going, we're going to be willing, we're going to push it out here on the edge, on the verge. Yeah. We're going to try things sometimes that people will go, oh, should a church be doing that? I don't know about that. As you know, we've been doing this for over a decade at the movies in the summer.
Love at the movies.
And in a college town in July, it is the doldrums, man. I mean, everybody's gone. College students are gone. Everybody's on vacation. So nobody sticks around. Attendance is horrible. It's just... But we have turned a month that normally was pretty horrible. It's like second only to Easter, which is one of our biggest Sundays.
Popcorn, soft drinks.
Yeah. But we have learned how to try to take the narrative of a movie, use it just like Jesus used stories all the time. Yeah. He called them parables to teach profound truths about God. So we just decided, hey, and it wasn't original with us. We learned it from another church that was starting to do it. But we kind of thought, let's do our own version of that. And let's take that and package it in a way. It's super easy to invite all of your unchurched neighbors, friends, coworkers, family members. And I have so many people all throughout the whole calendar year that say, and I ask them, when did you first start coming? At the movies.
At the movies.
I came in at the movies. And so it has become an incredible front door. Now, we don't shy away from the Bible, Scripture. We share the gospel, the good news of Jesus at the end of every movie. So it's all there. It's just packaged a little differently than what people might used to. So,
and it's a great way to get people in. It helps expand your purpose.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a different way of doing things. I like too that you said, you picked that up from somewhere else. And I know for us in our business, we've been blessed to have a number of different law firms that we're willing to share with us. And we see these various firms a couple of times a year now. We share ideas and there's always something new to capture. So, it's called research and development, R&D, or rip off and duplicate. That's what we like to call it. But again, I think it's a good key for businesses. Yeah. Anybody trying to grow, anybody trying to be on the verge, is you got to look out there, find people that are willing to share, and then give those things a try.
Yes. And we've had to tweak it. Bryan College Station is a unique culture and community, and it has its own idiosyncrasies and nuances that you got to think about. And but once you consider those things, and kind of, for us, it's kind of like what we call missiology, or the study of your mission field.
Yeah.
Like, this is your mission field, and you guys have a mission field too. Like, you got to think about who are we trying to reach. So are we speaking their native language? Are we speaking their tongue? Like, if we're not, then we shouldn't be surprised we're not reaching any of them, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a certain way in which to understand the culture that you've been called to. And when you start to click, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, thousands are showing up, you know? And so, and that's kind of what we've seen at Brazos. It's been such a blessing. And we certainly haven't cracked the code on everything, but we're still trying to learn. We're still trying to you know, see what God has next. But it's been really cool when we have been willing to venture out on that bleeding edge a little bit. There's a blessing that's found in that. So,
well, it sounds like at the movies is a good way for y'all to get. It's almost like some marketing. It's hey, come try something different, try something new. It helps with members. You know, hey, I know I could invite so and so to this because I think they'd really come in and it not feel stressful for them.
Yeah.
You mentioned the first ever service that you held at the school. You sent out a mailer, so that's like old school marketing right there. And I don't think marketing is something necessarily associated much with churches, but this church has done some marketing over the years. So I know that's changed now. You know, marketing is so different. So you started with a mailer. We're all the way to here where you have a special like summer thing that kind of draws in. What are you seeing in that world now? Because I think it could be relevant to other businesses. And how do you draw people in an era where it's so social media dominated? People are so distracted with so many different entertainment options. How does a church in 2025 draw some attention, get its brand out there in a way that could bring in more people to help you fulfill your purpose?
I think one of the things is empowering and teaching people, pardon me, that they are the outreach arm of the church, and helping people to see, hey, what God has done in your life started as an invitation. Somebody invited you. Yeah. Even if it was a family member, even when you were a little child, it was a parent that said, hey, get dressed. We're going to church today. Somebody in your life is one invitation away from life change. Yeah. And I think when they start to understand that, again, there's great purpose in an invitation. Yeah. Hey, the worst fear that somebody has when they invite somebody is they're going to say, no, not interested. You know, like,
I like how you said
what did I lose? Nothing. And I might ask them again. And what we found is that sometimes it might take a half dozen invitations, and they finally go, you know what? Yeah, we're free this weekend. We'll come with you guys. We'll come check it out. And we've had so many people, their lives have radically changed because of somebody just inviting. And I think helping people to see that. So we've gone to probably more word of mouth than ever before, and showing people how powerful but yet simple that is, and then it's okay if somebody says no, big deal. Invite somebody else. You know, like if you're having a pizza party to watch a football game at your house, and you invite 20 people and 3 of them can't come, you don't like get sad about it.
Yeah. You
just invite a few more people or something or whatever, or you just go with the people that you have. It's okay. Like, I think sometimes we get so hung up, like, oh, this is going to be awkward, and I'm inviting them to church, and they're going to say no. And no, just invite them. And I think if it's been life-changing and God's used it in your life to make a difference, then, why would you not share that with somebody?
Sure.
And it's almost selfish. Not almost. It is. If you had the cure to the common cold or cancer, and somebody you knew could really benefit from it, and you don't share that with them, now they might say no, you know? Oh, well.
Yeah.
But offering it, at least offering it, is literally the least you can do, is to offer it to them. And so I feel like we've kind of gone to, in terms of marketing, on the front end, nobody knew who we were at all. And so we did do some commercials. We did do some direct mail pieces, and that helped kind of get some people in the door. And then I think another thing I've been doing, Danny, and this may relate, I think there's some crossover with other organizations that are not churches, but trying to let people know what am I talking about next week? I've been trying to tease, if you will, put out there like, here's the big question I'm going to answer next week. Here's the big issue I want to try to tackle next weekend. We're going to look at what Jesus has to say about X next week. You know somebody that could really benefit. You need to invite them with you next weekend.
Yeah.
People have been taking that and running with it. Like it's really, so I'm helping them help their friends. I'm helping them to, we sometimes say, put a bullet in their invite gun. Now I gave them something that will help them to invite somebody. Like, okay, this is something I can actually use to say, hey, this next weekend, we're going to be talking about how to have healthier marriages, or how to have more purpose in your life, or, like this weekend, I'm going to talk about how to evaluate. How do you evaluate whether something is actually priceless or it's not? Because we sometimes struggle with, I think it feels like it's really but then sometimes later we're fooled like, oh, this wasn't nearly as valuable as I thought it was. But I poured a lot of energy and time and effort and a big chunk of my life I gave to it. And then the thing that was really precious, I let it slip away, And Jesus has a lot to say about that. So we're going to talk about that this weekend. So anyway, just trying to sort of set that hook of like, okay, how
That's
to
really
help
cool.
your friends find
you're delivering content every week. Businesses they don't have to do that. Like you have to do that.
Yeah.
And that's interesting how you're delivering this content, and then you're able to share that content with them, and then you're telling them, hey, look what's coming next. And everybody thinks of somebody that, oh, I know somebody that they need that.
Yes.
At least we think they need that. But that's good for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's good for the church, for them to think that somebody they know needs that, and then they're able to come in. I think that's really cool. I know that for us, content delivery, I had Claudia told me, I said, hey, there's some content that I wanted you to look at. It was online or something. It was on social, and I don't get on social that much, so I thought it was like the thing that we delivered. And she goes, no, Danny, we put out 30 pieces of content this week. So which one are you talking about? I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You have to put out so
That's
much
awesome.
content now, though, just because the eyeballs are so distributed. So
Yeah.
well, Will, man, you got a lot of good nuggets in here. We started with, taking care of yourself. And I know in your job where you're on stage every single week, and I know you also take time, you set vacations. I've always been really impressed by that. I've taken that from you and to try and apply to my own life. Like take care of yourself, because you're out there. You're the CEO of this church, and you got to take care of yourself. I love purpose, man. Just giving people a purpose that they can be just so super passionate about. Taking ideas from others to get better, getting your content out there and using word of mouth is a new way to draw in more people into your business, into your organization.
Yeah.
And also, I think you're in such a unique position where you're on stage every week that, like you said, you have to devote like half of your week to preparation for this content delivery on a weekend.
Yeah.
That position's put you in a place where you almost have to give your people autonomy to make a lot of decisions around the organization.
Yes.
And that's really interesting because not all CEOs are in that position. I think a lot of times we try and take too much control. We want to make all the decisions. You almost can't do that.
I can't.
Like, you have to let them make decisions and do things and kind of run the organization, because you have to prepare for a big presentation. That's like, I don't know, that's just something I picked up as we were sitting here talking. That's such a good lesson, I think, to take away from this, is that if we could just release the control, right? Not all of us have to deliver something every single week, so we can kind of hoard control a lot of times. But it's interesting to be able to just say, you don't have that choice, right? You've got to give it up.
Not really. And I had to give up having my hand on everything. If I wanted to keep my hand, and there are pastors, there are CEOs, there's leaders that do that, but I think you become the lid.
Absolutely.
You become the bottleneck.
Yeah.
And I realized like God could do a whole lot more if I would stop acting like I'm the Messiah, because we already got one. We don't need me. And I can trust. You got to hire the right people. I think Jim
Sure.
Collins said you got to get the right people on the bus.
Absolutely.
And you can switch them around, put them in different seats on the bus, but you got to get awesome people on the bus, and then awesome things will happen. And I think that by God's grace, and it's taken us some time to get awesome people on the bus. And I really believe we have an amazing, like we even have some people that you could probably switch them around. Now there's a learning curve, but they would do awesome in almost any job because they bring that awesome with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're just going to give their excellence to things. So all that to say, having the right people around you is absolutely the key. And I think that goes back to the prayer for wisdom and pray for the right people, and to be able to discern when you're sitting in front of the right person, like, oh, wow, this person, sometimes you get fooled. You think they'll show you otherwise sometimes.
Sure.
And, but it's, I think that's it. I mean, it's just trying to take it one step at a time, and just really being able to trust people. And there are going to be times where they'll bring stuff to me like, hey, we need to talk about this. We're coming to a fork in the road. We need to, and I've figured out how to, I got to carve out time, and we got to, drill down on that and figure out what we need to do. And so, but it's wonderful when you have people that are so catalytic, they can go, here are 3 options that we see of. We're not sure which one.
Yeah.
Boy, that's way easier, way better than starting with a blank page and going, we have no idea what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
options are awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, and maybe we tweak, like maybe we're going to do a combination of these two, or we're going to rework one, or we're going to, but starting with something's better than nothing. But
sure. Well, in closing, I just want to ask you this one last thing. Yeah. You're talking to your 20-year-old self. I mean, you're who you are today, but you're talking to your 20-year-old self, and you're going to give them a little bit of advice on the journey ahead. Can you think of something? Just what comes to mind about what would you want to tell your 20-year-old self about the journey ahead, and what little piece of advice might you give them?
That is a great question. I think I would tell my 20-year-old self to just slow down, enjoy the journey. Don't be so fixated on what's next. How do we grow bigger? How do we get better? I think you can get so obsessed with the next growth barrier, that you miss celebrating what God's doing right now. Like, it's just sweet, and there's just some really cool things that are happening. I think, and I'm thankful I didn't just like go off the rails in this regard, but I think I didn't slow down enough.
Oh man. Preach.
I don't think I enjoyed my girls when they were little bitty enough. I think I did.
Sure.
I definitely did. And we have great relationships with them now, all of them.
Yeah.
But I think I would have probably said, it's okay. Yeah. It's all going to be there tomorrow. And, take off a little extra time, and just enjoy this time. And it's really all up to God anyway. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of hard work, but you don't have to do it all in one day.
Sure.
Like
that's great, man. That's such good advice. I just read another book called Driven, not the Daniel Pink Driven.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
There's another one out there, Driven, and there's more to the title, but I just remember.
Okay.
I think it's called The Driven.
Okay.
And it's about type A personalities. There's certain genetic makeups of certain type A type people. And my big takeaway from that book was just that is, you have to enjoy the journey. And one of the best things you can tell yourself as an individual that's always on the verge is that there is no finish line.
Yes.
There's no finish line. This is about getting better every single day.
That's good.
I definitely look back on my career and I go, oh man, some of that was such a blur. And it's a blur because you were just so frantically trying to do everything every day.
Yes.
And so I love that advice, man.
Well,
I love that advice. I wish I could have heard that when I was 20 and actually taken it to heart and slowed down a little bit too.
Just slowing down. Yes. And I got to remind myself of that every week.
Yeah.
Slow down. It's okay.
Just relax.
Just take a breath. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be fine. So,
well, Will, thanks for joining us on The Verge, man. Great stories. I know your story inspires so many others to just keep going and being on The Verge. Appreciate you being here with us.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
Awesome.